Amici del rock and roll, ci siamo, rientriamo a Rocksville per parlare come al solito di grande musica. Oggi per me è un piacere enorme avere a che fare con una band che arriva da Los Angeles, una band che negli ultimi anni ha consegnato dei dischi meravigliosi. Questo è il quarto, si chiama No Joy, con noi direttamente dagli Spanish Love Songs. Dylan, how's it going, Dylan?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm super good. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your music. Album number 4, No Joy, is beautiful. I really enjoy it. It just came out like a few days ago, and I've been
hmm
listening and listening and listening. All different formats, from vinyl to streaming. It's an absolute masterpiece. Thank you.
No, thank you so much.
I gotta say, I was very happy about having you on this interview, but I guess that the word happiness, it's a difficult word to deal with when it comes to Spanish love songs, isn't it?
I guess I don't know. We have fun doing it, and I feel like people enjoy listening to us. So I think you can be happy and listen to sad music. It's totally fine.
No, no, I'm good. I was just joking, but talking about the different releases, this is album number 4th. So your career has been going on since 2013. You moved
hmm
from LA to Nashville for living with your wife,
hmm
Meredith, and probably this is part of the change also in the lyrical content of this record, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, and just sort of, I mean, every record is kind of a reflection of where I'm at in life, and what I'm interested in or what I'm obsessing about. And, yeah, this was no different. I mean, touring shut down in 2020, and we had to find a new place to live, and we moved and sort of built up a new life, and tried to get the band up and running again as everything slowly started coming back. And, yeah, this is just a good reflection of life since, I don't know, whenever Brave Faces was written. So life since 2019. So, we finished this album about a year ago. So yeah, it was an encapsulation of the previous 3 years.
I guess it wasn't easy to be honest with your audience, talking about what really went through from 2020 to 2022 when you ended up recording this record. Because, everybody talk about the fact that pandemic involved so many people. Somebody
Mhm.
lost jobs, lives, and it was a very difficult moment for the world. But actually putting everything on a record, dealing with your inner feelings and stuff, I guess was another challenge for the band itself. Not only to actually move on with your artistic career and try to be tight as you can to go on and waiting for better days, but actually to put on this lyrical content that was very personal. I read that every Spanish love songs record album is a response to the one before. Is
Mhm.
it correct in a way?
Yeah, and I don't think it's anything deeper than that. It's just, we tend to be reactionary about how we feel about an album and how certain people assign certain things to albums. Because, like, I mean, we're humans, we listen, we hear what people say. So it's a fun way to sort of challenge ourselves and try to push ourselves in new directions, and while still sort of maintaining the thing that makes us us. And yeah, I think that's a natural thing to. Well, we did this last time, so why why don't we try to do the opposite of that, or why do we try to address that thing that, like, if we only did this certain thing for an entire album last time, how can we get away without doing that thing again? I think that's just an interesting way to approach the work, because there's no point in just repeating yourself.
I think that this record, it's a very beautiful record in in different senses. The first one is the arrangement. I really like the sound itself. So can we talk a little bit about the production? What did you
Mhm.
add from the previous recording? What did you experiment in the studio that probably you never done before?
I don't think anything fundamentally changed. Like, all the same pieces were there. I just think we arranged them in a different way and had different skill sets and brought in new skill sets and stuff that we had maybe learned over the course of the pandemic, or, just we've become better musicians in the last X amount of years. So yeah, I think it not like in the studio itself, there wasn't like a new shiny piece of gear that changed everything for us. I mean, obviously there was new things sitting around, but I think the biggest thing was just having the confidence in the approach and the willingness to sort of use things in a different way. Um, so, if a part would have called for a big distorted guitar previously, it's like, well, what if we didn't use the big distorted guitar and we used a synthesizer instead? Or what if we put an acoustic guitar in a track? Or what if the drums didn't change? What if they just stayed the same beat for 2 minutes? Stuff like that, So it's just reshaping how we use the tools and maybe getting more comfortable with using the tools.
These tools are totally great in the composition of the songs. It's a very organic album in my. It grows, it has ups and downs in a very functional way. The very first single was Hunted, that tells a different stories of ghosts, and this is again the connection probably with the fact that you moved to Nashville, isn't it?
hmm yeah, I mean that song references my time in Nashville quite a bit and living out in the suburbs and sort of how quiet the suburbs are after having lived in the city for over 10 years. Um, and just sort of dealing with, yeah, being out and alone. And especially during a time when everything's kind of locked down and you didn't see your friends or you hadn't seen your family for, however long. And just sort of applying that more generally to life itself. Um, yeah, I think that's a fair assessment of that song. It definitely touches on it, and like even down to a lot of the things that are referenced in that song were just seen driving around Nashville, stuff like that.
There are so many influences in your song and so many influences in your sound that there is a brand new scene, I guess, from in the last 10 years, that it's just a part of the punk rock scene itself. It's more like more Springsteen oriented rock, and maybe
hmm
it all started with the Gaslight Anthem, Dan, the Menzingers, and a lot of band that you actually share the stage with. But
hmm
lately, I know you've been touring with Wonder Years and Rise Against. What if you could like pick up some elements of other bands you've been toured with? What could be maybe the perfect fit for Spanish love songs record number 5?
Oh man, that's tough. I think I would try to do the opposite, which is I would try to avoid picking up anything from other bands that we play with. Dan from the Wonder Years and I are friends, and we're constantly talking about how we have to be careful to not rip each other off on accident, because we have similar thoughts quite a lot of the time. No, it's been weird for us because I think when we started, we people like to say that we sounded like these other bands to a fault. Whether it wasn't intentional on our part, I think it's just a case of people of a similar age who grew up listening to similar music, making music of a certain type. But I think, it's been a push for us to get people to shut up about comparing us to other bands. And I don't care if you think we sound like X, because we sound like Spanish love songs. And I think that this is especially the first album where we can kind of sit back and say like, shut up. This is a Spanish love songs album. There's no reference point for you to say it sounds like this, or I mean there is, because music is all kind of similar. But at least in our own, we've made peace with it and we can be excited by it. But yeah, I think for LP5, I want to veer less into the bands that we tour with and veer more into stuff that we're interested in that's outside of the scope of what we usually do, and try to expand it that way. And yeah, I think you're always looking for inspiration and also being weary of accidentally stealing something, because that's just how it is. And yeah, when we're writing an album, I actually try not to listen to music at all, just to keep my brain fresh.
That's clear. But I gotta be honest. Ever since I started listening to your music, I figure out that it was very personal, and it's easy. It's easy to recognize that it's Spanish love songs. That's a
Yeah,
fact. And
I mean we've always said that too, but some people, I don't know. it's easy to make a lazy comparison, right? And I understand why. Like, because you want to contextualize something quickly and try to sell it or try to understand it in a way that makes sense to you. But again, like, we're humans and we hear that stuff, and it's like, no, we are not just this band. Like, we are our own band, and sorry that you can't see that, and we hopefully can make you see that in the future, or not. But that's our goal, is to just be ourselves.
One of other goal probably was, I read this in some interviews that you came up with, was actually to accept happiness and accept the fact of actually allow yourself moments of joy. And I know it sounds
Mhm.
weird with the title of the album, but actually it's something that as a human being everybody should actually try to be happy, especially if we grow up with listening to some music. I was a punk rocker since I was 14, and it was easy for me to come up with answers through angst or rage or something like that.
Mhm.
It's way more difficult to come out with songs that are full of joy, not sounding cheesy or whatever. How do you get to this point in your songwriting?
Um, I don't know. It just sort of started happening, and it felt like a worthwhile exercise. The songs are still incredibly dark and kind of sad, but it is approaching some form of happiness, or trying to, do a love song in a way that we can do a love song. Because love and happiness can coexist with deep despair. They're probably all coexisting together to form, regular emotions. But as far as the songwriting, I don't know. It's been a big process for me. Of It's really easy to be negative and sort of, you know shit on other people for what they're doing, or just kind of pass it off and say something sucks, or say that I'm unhappy, I'm miserable, I'm grouchy, I'm this, I'm that. And it's a lot harder to sort of like take stock and be like, I'm feeling good and I'm happy, and life is good. And even if things aren't perfect, sort of recognizing what is good and what isn't good, and what you would like to change and what you should be grateful for. And a lot of this is sort of wrestling with that sort of thought process, and just being grateful for what you have in any given moment, even if it's not the moment you thought you wanted or thought you deserved or whatever. Um, but yeah, it sort of came naturally. It's just, part of my own personal growth process, and trying not to be a angry like an angry dick forever, trying to just be a happier, not even happier, just like a more laid back person.
I got you. I got you. And especially after such a difficult, worldwide situation like the one that we live in
Yeah,
2020. I guess it was probably easier to, accept more happiness in normal life, in everyday life. Again,
yeah.
you've been
It can always. Oh, sorry.
no, go on.
I was going to say it can always get worse. So might as well might as well enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. You've been. I saw an interview after the Slam Dunk Festival you've been part of, and it kind of remind me that the very first time I saw a festival in the UK, Alkaline Trio was headlining. Why I'm telling you this name? Because I think that Matt Skiba is probably one of the closest lyricists that I was thinking about when I first listened to Spanish love song, especially
Hmm.
for the play on words. It's that kind of lyricism, dark macabre lyrics and something. But if I have to ask you, uh, again, for the lyrical content, someone you've been inspired by and can be like, director for movies or, book author or again,
Hmm.
songwriters.
Oh, I mean, that list is endless. I mean, I love writers and I appreciate writers. Matt Skiba being one of them. I love Matt Skiba's lyrics. I grew up on Matt Skiba's lyrics. I always appreciated the way that Bruce Springsteen can tell a story, the way that John Darnielle has made an entire career out of building worlds out of nothing. Um, yeah, there's different film writers, different poets, there's different fiction writers. I mean, the list is truly endless. It just what am I reading at that given moment, or what am I listening to? And I'm probably that's probably like who I'm obsessing over and being like, oh man, they're so good. They like get it. Because that's just how I engage with different works of art is through the writing. So oftentimes when listening to bands, I could really not care less about the music as long as as long as it's serving some greater story, which is why I don't do well with instrumental music a lot of times because there's nothing for me to really engage with unless it's like for a film score or something, in which case it's trying to tell a story using just sound. Um, but yeah, I think it just depends on what I'm reading on any given day.
One thing that I always admire about songwriters, it's the ability of actually being able to tell with the same effort stories that belongs to your personal life and stories that tell someone else's life. Maybe you heard something, maybe you
Mhm.
just had a conversation at the bar and translate it into a songs. How often you balance that? I mean, I don't think that you sit down, okay, we got to write the next album, so it's gonna be like half personal, half somebody else's stories. But if you have to think about it, like how much you get inspired by some other people's stories, and how much you try to translate it into something that is personal for your band lyrics.
I don't give it a ton of thought because it sort of happens naturally in that if I'm translating a story that's happened, then I'm obviously putting myself into it in some way. The same way that like they say in your dreams you're every character. Well, like in a song, I'm every character and I'm no character at the same time. So I think it just depends. I'll just start writing until the song starts to make sense. And even songs that I've written about other people, I could give you a reading of the song where it's about me. And even songs that I think are about me, I could give you a reading of the song that's where it's not about me at all. So I think, I mean, that's kind of one of the joys of songwriting specifically is that you can sort of toy with that perspective. And like it has its downsides. Like everybody thinks that every song might be about me or that I am a certain way based on the characters in the songs. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's all kind of a character, right? So even songs that are about me are still, it's not like me. It's some romanticized or weird version of me that makes sense for a song because it's really just about telling a story that makes you feel anything at all in the confines of a 3-minute pop song. So like whatever works is what I'm going to do, and I try not to go any deeper than that. Like if it needs to be exclusively about somebody else, that's fine. But I often find myself wanting to put some semblance of me in it because I don't know. I listen to music to try to see what this person thinks or feels about something. Like it's their interpretation of something. And so if I'm trying to kill myself out of it entirely, it's like, why would you listen to me? I'm just some guy telling a random story. Then what makes it interesting is like my reading of the situation, and then that leads to your own interpretation of my reading of the situation. So it's like a weird, complex thing.
I was thinking about the fact that it's probably a very good aspect of songwriting itself, uh, coming up with new material, but at the same time, it happens many so often that artists used to say that the last record is the best one, and probably because you got so much into, you got expectations for the new record and new music. Is it difficult for you to put new music in the perspective of the career of the band, also maybe when you have to set up a set list for a show?
Um, I guess, but I am one of those people who thinks that the newest stuff is the best stuff for any band. You might not like it, like as a listener, it might not be your favorite, but it is the thing that got them out of bed to make music. So that is their best thing because it managed to keep them going. So yeah, we obviously make sure that we try to balance the set list, especially as we get more and more songs. But yeah, but I only want to play new songs because they're the least old and the things I've done the least, and they're novel still. Even if the songs by the time we start playing them live, some of these songs are already 2 or 3 years old, but some of the Brave Faces songs are 6 years old. You know what I mean? So I am always wanting to do what's new and fresh and what we can have fun with. And yeah, I would argue that any band's latest album is their best album, just because it's the thing that kept them creating. Unless it's like a retread, or like they're just, shitting something out to get an album out because they think it's what people want. But I feel like you can usually tell when, I don't know. But even then, that they still did it. So that's still the thing that kept them going. So yeah, making an album's hard, and I think that it's very easy to write somebody off of like, oh, I like their older stuff. It's like, yeah, you might like their older stuff, but that's just you. That is not like the definitive answer for any album or anything. So yeah, it's I try not to be precious about the past. Like, it's done.
That's a good point. That's a good point. We talk about set list because you're on tour right now.
Mhm.
How's the reaction on this time European tour? Have you seen any changes in the audience, or probably? Well, I'm not thinking about the fact that you actually, look after people after the show or before the show, but maybe you had the chance to talk with somebody else that gives you different points of view on the new stuff or the band, and maybe it's different from the reaction that you might have in the States.
We actually haven't started yet. Our tour starts tomorrow, and we haven't played in Europe since 2020, since before Brave Faces came out in 2020. So I have no idea. Like, I'm assuming it'll go a certain way, and I'm assuming people will be excited, but it's especially going to be weird in some place like Germany where we never got to tour on Brave Faces. So it'll be their first time hearing Brave Faces songs, and also their first time hearing No Joy songs. But that's great. That's a great problem to have. It'll be a lot of fun. I expect it should be bigger and people will be into it. We'll see. Just based on like numbers and stuff, yeah, it should be a much bigger reaction than the already great reactions we always got in Europe, anyways. But yeah, we're mostly excited to just kind of be back and see people, and see our friends, and just see these countries that we love to go to, and sort of reestablish what we do there, because it's been so long. It's been almost 3.5 years.
Gotcha. Okay, the last question for this interview, it's probably the most personal one, but it's whenever there's a record going and there's the songwriting process, it's easy to ask ourselves questions while we put down some lyrics, and sometimes music gives us answers, and the reaction of the bandmates when you write music, the reaction of the crowd, sometimes press, and reviews give us some kind of backup feeling when you have to think back about No Joy songs. You think this is a record that has more questions or more answers inside?
Oh, I think we're not a band who wants to provide answers at all. I don't think that's our job. Our job is just to sort of, I don't even think our job is really to ask questions either. I mean, even though we do, but like, our job is just to sort of, this is it. Like, that's the stories we're telling. It's not like a song like Kick, for example. It's not, oh, doing drugs is bad, or oh, doing drugs is good. It's like, oh, people do drugs and die from it. I have no answer for that other than how it makes me feel. And so with No Joy, I think it's a lot of the same thing. Is I don't have an answer to depression or dying or loneliness or any of that. It's just like, this is how people I know feel, or how I feel, and I don't think there's an answer to it. To say there's an answer to it would be pretty preachy. But all we can do is sort of, acknowledge that it exists and that we're all a part of it, and that we can, maybe together we can find an answer, or maybe we don't need to find an answer. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe the answer is not giving a shit about it and just living our lives. I don't know, but this is what it is.
I'm gonna leave my life listening to your music because it makes me feel great. So I don't know if
That's
that
awesome.
was the purpose.
That is
I don't know.
I mean, that's the real answer. We just want you to be happy listening to our band. Like, That's why we do it. We want you to like not feel alone and want to listen and be excited to listen because we are excited to do it. And that's like the real answer is we just love playing music and that's all we want to do.
And this record number 4, No Joy, it's beautiful. It just came out. You should check him out. Thank you so much, Dylan, for your time. Hope to see you sooner or later also in Italy, maybe if you're gonna get the chance.
Man, that we haven't been to Italy since 2018. I don't think it's a real shame. It's one of my favorite places on earth, and like every time we get close, I'm like, why aren't we just going to Italy? It's right there. I can see it. So hopefully, yeah, hopefully soon.
Okay, thanks again, Dylan. Have a good tour.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.